From the Delhi studios of Republic TV, it's time for the debate.
Debate at 10, powered by Nissan Magnite and Amrita University.
Ladies and gentlemen, the world is staring down and calling out China. There is a global demand for a true and full probe into COVID origins and accountability for the Chinese virus. But China seems to be scampering away. Now, the Chinese government has refused to be part of WHO's proposal of a second phase virus tracing study. What is China afraid of? What is it afraid a second probe will essentially find? And why shouldn't China be made accountable for the Chinese virus? Ku, your opinion? Here is the story, and then we debate.
Let's debate.
And I have a special panel to debate this entire matter. Zhu Qindo, senior journalist, political analyst and senior fellow, joining us from Beijing. Also, Dr. Li Mengyan, a virologist and a whistleblower, and an important person, if I may say so, someone whose voice has also been muzzled once again. And Dr. Swati Maheshwari, infectious diseases specialist, joining us from the National Capital, and Sardar R.P. Singh. Zhu Qindo, let me begin by asking you, and also Li Mengyan, as far as China is concerned, what is it that China is trying to hide at this point in time? Because the fact of the matter is, the entire globe, everyone wants to know the source of this entire virus. But somewhere down the line, the Chinese are obstructing it. What is it that China is hiding?
It's very clear. First, thank you for having me. And it's very clear that China government try to hide all the evidence that can point out that they have conducted this terrible tragedy in the world. And although they have prepared a lot of the fake evidence and spread a lot of misinformation, deny a lot, and also they have their misinformation analysts all over the world. But still, it's like the killer always scared that maybe policemen will find the most circumstantial evidence, or maybe there is something not perfect because they cannot make it perfect. So China tried their best to stop such investigation because they know once real investigation was conducted in China, even they have prepared a lot, still there would be a lot of suspicious clues and also evidence come out. And at that time, more and more people will realize that China is hiding the real origin of COVID-19 as their unrestricted bioweapon.
Zhu Qindo, you need to respond to what Li Mengyan is essentially saying. And let me also give you some facts. And we would like to debate on facts right now. The US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Director, Dr. Robert, and I'm quoting, has essentially said that it's his personal opinion based on facts that the virus was released from a lab in China, and this something needs to be probed. Why is it that China appears to be extremely wary? Is it because they need to hide something? And I'll put out more facts, but first, what exactly is China trying to hide right now?
As you pointed out, Mr. Redford said his personal opinion. Obviously, there's no evidence that this virus is leaked from these,
But he also says back with facts.
And let me give you some facts. Okay, let me talk. Let me give you some facts. Inside this Wuhan Institute of Virology, there was no such virus at all. And also, the WHO investigation, the phase 1 investigation in China, in Wuhan, has already done earlier this year. If there's anything hidden by the Chinese side, there wouldn't be the phase 1 investigation at all. So, this is about science work. We should let science do their work instead of politicizing this very important work. And if WHO somehow, remember, where is this theory from? First of all, it's from Tom Curtin, the far-right political forces in the United States. And then the Trump regime basically mainstreamed such a theory and was dismissed by everybody inside the U.S. and around the world. And somehow when Biden came to office, they picked up this theory, and they needed to find someone to probably point a finger at, because given how many people died in the U.S., and then there's a demand for 3 months for the intelligence community inside the U.S. to give Biden an answer, a definitive answer. Why do we wait? If they can find the answer, let them find the answer, okay?
So, but there were obstructions. There were certain obstructions. And Dr. Swati Maheshwari, I would also like you to come in right now. Everyone knows, and it's been widely reported, that there was a deliberate delay, perhaps of the Chinese administration, to not inform the global community about the spread of coronavirus. And this is a fact that I want to put it out right now. And Dr. Swati Maheshwari, it's very important, something that China does not want to talk about. Zhu would also not want to talk about it, and this is what has happened. It is for 6 days after top Chinese officials secretly determined the possibility of pandemic was the news broken by President Xi, leading to over 3,000 people being infected during that first week itself. So there was a lag of about 6 days rather, before the global community had an idea that this virus was spreading. Shouldn't we really know what really happened? Shouldn't China be made accountable for it?
Definitely, and those were very critical 6 weeks, I would say. And the panelist who was speaking before me, I definitely do not agree with any of his comments that he said, because whatever he said anyways is very controversial. One, he said that there is no such animal, and Li Shengli herself said that the progenitor or the closest relative of coronavirus is RATG13. Then how could they claim that RATG13 was the closest relative, whereas that again was a false claim, because later we came to know that that was not, because there were 17 different mutations on RATG13 different from CoV2, whereas a pangolin virus was much closer relative to the CoV2. Secondly, they said that the WHO, took 1 year, almost a year, to land on ground, and we all know it was a chaperone visit. So we are definitely not sure as to what investigation happened there and how much evidence was covered up, and a lot of key clues were probably erased by the time the WHO landed in China. So all these things, and look at it, if you look at the facts, then their China lab, the Wuhan lab, went offline late in 2019. So there is no record of what kind of viruses they were dealing with. So suddenly they decided to go offline, which they say was because of some kind of cyber piracy that they were looking at. But then look at it, then again, even if you look at the structure, then the structure has a furin polybase cleavage site, which again looks like a gain of function effort only, because it is a combination, it is a hybrid of a pangolin and of a bat virus, which again suggests that this is gain of function. This was some kind of virus factory that was going on in Wuhan, which probably leaked out, and therefore the entire scientific community right now is appalled by the fact that because of the quick rebuttal that they have given to the lab leak theory. Why not? Why could it not have leaked from the lab? Because they were working on these viruses only. It's not possible for any remote cave miles away for the virus to travel from there to here. Yes.
Sardar RP is saying, the reason why I'm saying that shouldn't China be held accountable, the fact of the matter is 4 million and counting. That's the number that we are talking about in terms of death. Calling it a pandemic in itself is quite an understatement. It's 50% of more deaths during the Holocaust, for which there were trials later on. But today, China, there is no response really coming in from the Chinese. The Chinese, in fact, is blocking any sort of probe that is going to be carried out. And Zhu, who's also in our panel, is essentially saying that, look here, we allowed them to come. The investigation did actually take place, but then it was a sanitized probe that was basically carried out. Shouldn't all countries come together. And here I want to also ask you, Sardar RP Singh, shouldn't India also play a very important role? Because when the first probe came in, there was other countries came together. India did not put that much of pressure that it should have on China to ensure that this entire probe takes place.
See, what is more important is today the third wave which is bothering us. And then to understand that way better, there are people who are expert on this. This complete investigation will help to counter that third wave. And we'll appreciate China, instead of stonewalling the second inquiry into the complete instance, they should allow that to happen for humanity's sake. I mean, don't get into this that this will put you in trouble or put you in dock. I mean, but today, much more important is saving lives. And then we all know that third wave is already knocking doors. It has come in countries and it is there to come in other countries also. And that can be more dangerous. But how to know the traces of it? And till the time you know the traces of it, you can counter it. So we'll appreciate China should allow, and India is for it, that China should allow the second investigation and a fair investigation into the complete Wuhan instance, so that world can fight the corona better.
Professor Shrikant Kondapalli, also I would like to bring you in right now, because with regards to accountability, this entire aspect of accountability, why is it that China cannot be held accountable? And I would like to put out certain facts here. International laws which basically enables the global community to come together and ensure that China actually responds. They violated the 2005 international health regulations. They should be perhaps probed when it comes to Article 6 of that very health regulation. You've had WHO investigating in the past, be it MERS, be it Ebola, investigations have essentially taken place. So why is it that when it comes to COVID-19, somewhere down the line, we are dragging our feet when it comes to a thorough investigation?
Well, when there is a domestic angle as well as an international angle to this, China passed the 2007 emergency law where any disease, any infection that is reported in any part of China will have to be communicated to the Beijing-based CDC and the Health Commission and others. But that has not been done in this case, although during the SARS crisis, learning lessons from that in 2003, they set up this emergency law, and the Premier of the State Council and the health-related Vice Premier, they need to inform immediately and jump into the issues related to the virus outbreak. That is the law in China. However, that has not been implemented. Number two is the international dimension, which is that once the virus is reported, the infection is reported, then WHO needs to be alerted immediately. While China stated that it has reported, but it has not given the complete gene structure of the virus in the initial days.
Right.
And WHO itself was in different ways they were dealing. They were alerting the international community that there is no need for curbs on the air travel or other social distancing methods. Number two. Number three is the WHO itself was creating a lot of confusion by saying that there is no human-to-human transmission. And also the WHO delegation, the first delegation and the second delegation, in February 2020 and in January 2021, they were not given full access to the blood samples, nor on the drainage samples, which are required for verifying about the viruses and the aftermath of these. So none of these were provided even for the previous two delegations.
You know, Professor Shrikant, you make a very interesting point, and I would like, Professor Shrikant, you made a very interesting point that the very fact that there was a deliberate attempt by China to obstruct this entire investigation. And Zukindo, I want you to respond to this. because somewhere down the line, what China has essentially been doing, you have had whistleblowers like Dr. Li Meng, who's basically been, her voice has been muzzled. You've had Dr. Li Wenliang, who was basically forced by the Chinese police to sign a letter saying he was spreading untrue speech for warning colleagues about the coronavirus that eventually killed him. So when such acts are essentially taking place, on what ground are you preventing a second probe that is basically to be carried out by WHO, an independent probe that should actually be carried out?
After this first phase of investigation earlier this year, the WHO reached a consensus that is it is extremely unlikely, listen clearly, extremely unlikely to have a lab leak in the Wuhan Institute over there. And the most likely case is just like other SARS virus.
Zukindo, I will not allow any sort of wrong facts to be put out. I will not allow you to say that the first probe that was basically carried out by the WHO was conclusive, and this is what WHO's Director General Tedros had said. You need to listen and then respond. This is what he said. The report is very important beginning. It is not the end. It is not the end. We have not yet found the source of the virus, and we must continue to follow the science and leave no stone unturned as we do. That is exactly what the WHO Director General had said. So it was not a conclusive report to begin with.
No. I'm not saying it's a conclusive report. I'm saying that they reached the consensus, quote unquote, extremely unlikely to have a lab leak over there. That's written in the report. Don't forget about that. That's also the fact. And also the most likely, probably, most...
Zhu, your points are so laughable. Your arguments are laughable. That's the reason why perhaps Dr. Li Meng, come in. Dr. Li Meng, I think so you have you perhaps would like to counter Zhu here simply because of the fact that these are laughable arguments.
Let me finish, all right? Let me finish my words.
We are not. I'm simply quoting the Director General of the WHO. I'm simply quoting that. And not to forget, the United States have also carried out the probe. The intelligence reports are out. It has basically put China on the map. Dr. Li Meng, put out facts, because unfortunately China today does not want to listen to any sort of facts. Dr. Li Meng, you were laughing at what Zhu had to say. Let Dr. Li Meng, why don't you put out some more facts for Zhu to counter?
Thank you. So first, I want to say that why Mr. Xu is so nervous and he want to fight with you with your time, because actually he's not scientist, and actually he is memorizing the text from the Chinese propaganda campaign. That's why it's repeatedly the same thing, but nonsense, no logic. And they try to push the world to accept all this propaganda, although everyone knows it's lying. And so he's very nervous because once we are talking about more facts, more logic, more things, he cannot respond because that doesn't listed on his propaganda text. He dare not to say anything else. If not, CCP will be angry. The second thing is, CCP insisted on the first WHO report, which is a joke accepted by all the world real scientists. But you know how it come out? The first WHO joint report with China actually is written by the China part team to work with WHO. The team director, Dr. Yi Gangtong, actually is a general of bioweapon in China. That is how we know as military-civil fusion. That clearly shows that this coronavirus is a product of China's long-term unrestricted bioweapon project. General Yi Gangtong is the leading director of the Academy of Medical Science, Military Medical Science in China, and he leaves that position of the National Military Microbiology Institute around 2018, and then shift into a civilian position in Beijing Chemical Technology University, and then pretend as a civilian scientist to lead this joint WHO investigation. So people can see clearly from this evidence how China control the investigation, even in the first time in China. And of course, once these things are revealed, China cannot manage to do the second thing. So that's why they are totally nervous. And also they realize the whole world won't buy their nature origin theory. And even this is not lab leak, because I have real experience handling COVID-19 virus in the world top WHO reference lab in the BSL-3 lab. Let me tell you, according to all my experience and all my knowledge in this field, it cannot be lab leak. And more evidence that to show that it is really intentionally released out of the lab.
Can I respond?
Dr. Swati, I know you also had a point to make, but this is a question that I want to ask Zhu first. So will you not admit that about 5 million people were basically allowed to leave Wuhan just before the quarantine? They were allowed to leave in the month of January before Wuhan was placed under lockdown. And then what we essentially saw, Zhu, was the spread of the virus. Why is it that the global community was not actually informed about the spread of the virus in itself?
Let me tell you why. When there's a new virus appearing, and how can you be sure in the first day, in the second day, or in a week? Can you tell me you are sure what the problem is? No. So is the Chinese scientist.
So you had 3,000. You had 3,000 people being infected in the first week itself. Dr. Swati, the reason why I want Dr. Swati to also come in to counter Zhu when it comes to the misinformation that he's trying to spread. 3,000. Dr. Swati is an infectious diseases specialist. Dr. Swati, Zhu is saying that, look here, how do we really know? So let's procrastinate on this entire matter. Let people actually get out of China, spread the virus, and then we'll actually inform the global community that, look here, we are facing some sort of a danger, Dr. Swati.
Absolutely, it's a false statement altogether, because it is Wuhan where already they are working on dangerous viruses and they know all about viruses, and suddenly they come out and say, oh no, we know nothing about the virus, we really don't know where this virus came from. And the other day you say, no, this virus has origin closest to this animal or RTG13. So this is not possible at all. It's all goofing up that they are doing. They definitely knew which virus it was. That's why, they knew the ways to curtail off the virus as well. They knew everything about the virus, but they didn't deliberately let the world know, because they wanted it to spread across the world, because that was the whole intention. The intention was to spread the pandemic. It is definitely not the lie. These are all the facts that they speak for themselves, and that's why, if China would have been clean, if they knew that they were being, then they would have been transparent. They would have said that let anybody or everybody come and see where the origin of the virus is. Because see, during SARS also this happened. The database helped the database that comes out from any pandemic helps develop more vaccines. And it is Sinovac itself that dusted off an 11-year-old design which was created for SARS virus vaccine, which they have now used for CoV-2. So they know that the payoffs are real when you're trying to find the origin of a vaccine. So they themselves know it. But because their hands are dirty, they don't want the world to know about it, and that's why they're hiding it, they are covering up the evidence, and that's why they don't want anybody to come and know the origin of the virus. And this is very dangerous for the human mankind, because and there are chances of more viruses coming up. This is definitely a biological weapon. And look at how the virus is still going so strong.
Sardar R.P. Singh, don't you think it is also time? Perhaps we need to amp up the entire pressure on China right now, because look at the impact. 18 months into the pandemic, look at the fallout that we have essentially seen. Look at the economic crisis that countries have gone into just because of the carelessness of one country, the Chinese virus that was essentially spreading. Don't you think, Sardar R.P. Singh, it is time to amp up this entire pressure on China?
See, Mr. Zhu, when you laugh over it, it hurts. I'm shocked the way you're laughing over it. It hurts the humanity. It hurts each life. I lost my family members. You're laughing how much it hurts me, how much millions of people are being hurt at the way you're laughing. how can you even do this? This is not human at all. Being human. We are all, after all, we are all human beings. We need to conduct ourselves. Yes, sir.
Please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I lost my brother. I lost my brother. I lost my brother, and your laugh
I'm sorry to
really
listen.
pinches
I'm
me,
sorry
sir.
to know that.
Sir, it's rubbing,
I have
it's rubbing
lost
salt.
too.
It is rubbing
But
salt
I'm
on the wounds of millions
but
of
it's
people
our
who died.
wishes to
Sir, when you laugh,
our
on
wishes
such,
to talk
sir,
about
when you
science
laugh on
like
such
it's
subjects, sir, Mr.
like
Zhu,
it's a fiction.
I never interrupted you. Sir,
I
thank you so much. I never interrupted
and
you.
Stop the lies, please.
Sir,
Because
sir, I never
it's
interrupted
because
you.
we cannot rely
please.
on lies to
You
solve the
can't,
problem.
even if it's a lie, you
People
can't,
are still suffering from this.
you can't laugh over the fatality which has happened, which has occurred worldwide. It's like
I
rubbing
was laughing
salt.
at those lies. How can people spread the blatant lies, saying it is biological weapons?
Who's Zukinder, who's spreading the lie? Zukinder, who's spreading the lie? Who's spreading the lie? Let me just, Zukinder, you're talking about lies. You're talking about lies, Zukinder. Just one last thing, Zukinder, you're talking about lies. It was your military, your Chinese foreign ministry who came up with this theory, claiming it is the US Army had brought the epidemic to Wuhan, and I'm quoting the Chinese foreign ministry who floated this entire theory. So on what basis do you really say, Zukinder, that there is some sort of lies that are being spread when you are basically caught?
That's a good point. Can I respond? That's
Quickly, I'll give you 30 seconds.
Military spokesperson, Mr. Zhao. He's responding to the U.S. accusation of like the Chinese deliberately spreading the virus. He said, by responding to that, I think with a lot of strong emotion, it could be the U.S. military joining the military game in Wuhan that spread the virus.
Right.
I wouldn't be judgmental, who is right, who is wrong. I would say that's a dispute. There's a fierce dispute between the two sides. You can blame both of them. I wouldn't say that's wise to accuse each other of spreading lies at that time.
Zukinder, you can continue spreading the lies, but as Sardar RP Singh was saying, perhaps China should grow some sort of a conscience, because at the end of the day, today the humanity faces its biggest crisis, and mature nations perhaps should come together and find out the source of this entire virus rather than just deflecting from this issue. Zukinder, Dr. Li Meng, Dr. Swati, Professor Shrikant and Sardar RP Singh, thank you very much for joining us on this debate.
Thank you.